So now we really stuck on the aspect of analysis of data, which is still part of the research proposal. And some of you who have attended our last 2 or so sessions, you'd agree with me that this is quite an involved process that we are really just skimming on, off its top. There's a lot that goes into this conversation than we realize. But the amount of information that you collect begins to make sense when you start to analyze it. Now, depending on what kind of information you're collecting, the analysis is going to be one of the other involved, overwhelming process that, if you're not careful, it can actually paralyze you. But this is why when we discuss these two aspects, the collection of data, we don't discuss them together as if it's just one process. We sort of just in your mind try to help you to see that there is collection of data and it ends there. So this way it starts, this way it ends. Now, when you're sitting with that kind of information as data, you now have to find another tool which you are going to employ to analyze it. So essentially, what does that mean? That means you're now going to go to the data that you have collected, whether qualitatively or quantitatively, whether from participants or from documents or whatever that you are going to collect the data from. And now you sit with it and you want to make sense out of it. Now, that's a phase of research on its own. And this is what we are trying to really discuss in this part of the program. So that is exactly why at times it becomes very difficult, because as you collect data, whether it's quantitative or qualitative or mixed methods, it remains raw data. So it's almost like you go out there, you're mining the data, you bring it and you give it to somebody else. It will have no meaning. The data only is going to be meaningful once you analyzed it. So basically, once you make sense out of it, then it becomes relevant. Of course, you still have to interpret it and you still have to integrate it into the life that we live. So this is exactly, ladies and gentlemen, what ladies and gentlemen, that we have been working around. And this is the reason why it's taking as long as it does. But again, I just want to remind you that because the research is not, the steps of research, you can go forward, you go backwards, it's allowed. So it's iterative. So basically, you don't have to think, oh, no, now I can't go back and check my hypothesis. Oh, no, now I can't go back and look at my sample. I can't go back and look at my design, my methodology, my method, all that. So this is part of the exercise that we are trying to demystify. But again, I'm aware that because we are at different levels of submission of the work that we do, we need to be mindful of that. So that is one of the reasons why, as we go forward, we come back. But before I really ramble on what we are going to be talking about, which is part of the repetitive work of data analysis, let me just check with you, how do you go about analyzing your data? For those of you who might be at that stage where you are analyzing your data. The last time you heard, we were talking about coding the data and making sure that it is properly coded and so on. But I don't want to assume that that is all what we are going to do, or this is how all of you have applied or are going to apply your techniques. Any volunteer before I ask Messi? Tell me, where are you with your proposal? Maybe that's where I should start.
I haven't reached this stage of analyzing data yet, Prof.
Oh, okay. Where are you? Stage
I'm still at the I'm at the research stage, trying to finish that.
The proposal.
The proposal, yes.
Oh, okay. Do you mind to share with us in few words what your proposal is about?
It's about affirmative action.
What about it?
Within the National Prosecuting Authority, How far are they with implementing affirmative action in terms of their recruitment process?
Did you present something like that before where
Yes.
you were looking at compliance?
Yes, I did, Prof.
Your study was quite interesting, but I think you were going to talk to the level at which they are complying with the laws.
Yes.
Okay. So you said you're at the proposal stage, but have you put together something thus far?
It's only the introduction yet, Prof.
Oh, okay. Have you been able to interact with your promoter?
Not yet.
Not as yet. Okay.
Not yet.
When are you expected to submit it, or when did you put your time for yourself to make sure that you're done with it?
I was hoping the end of this month, Prof.
Oh, okay. All right. So you have not yet collected data.
No.
You've not. Okay.
Not yet.
All right. We hope that this is not then going to overwhelm you and make you feel that, oh no, you're too much behind, because it's really not a marathon.
I don't think so. I'll actually be prepared.
It doesn't. You come in ready. Okay. Thanks for that, Leletu. I do recall that a little bit of that that we did discuss. Let me check then with Nikateko. Nikateko, I think we did speak sometime on your proposal, if my memory serves. Good evening.
Evening, Prof, and evening, everyone.
Okay. I do recall a little bit that we spoke, but I can't really remember the details of your proposal. Where are you with your proposal right now, Nikateko?
I'm doing my final draft.
Final draft of your proposal, okay. Remind me what it was. It is about.
It's about organizational rights in private sectors.
About?
Organizational rights in private sectors.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
And you are finishing your proposal.
Yes, Prof.
Okay. What are you looking at from the rights, organizational rights? If you may just jog my memory.
I'm checking if there's what you call this, the receptive of private companies when it comes to granting the organizational rights, the challenges that the employees or the trade unions have when they have to acquire organizational rights in private sectors. And yeah.
Okay, what do you think?
I think a lot of private companies, they're not willing, or they don't like trade unions. They don't like anything or any topic that has to do with the organizational rights. That's my thinking and experience from working with trade union back then.
So you think there is a reluctance from unions? I don't want to steal your words, but reluctance to sort of recognize.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, which sectors are you going to work with, if I may ask?
I was not because I thought maybe if I can only choose one sector, maybe I will narrow down my research proposal. So I was looking into whether I should narrow it down to one sector or do like everything around. I will choose myself which sectors I will go to instead of specifically saying, okay, let's say I'm choosing the road freight or I'm taking the road freight. So
Oh, okay. So so for now, which sector are you thinking about? You say?
Road freight is one of them, or it's I think it's also one of the biggest uh, um sector
Sector.
that,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
sector
Oh.
that
Is the road,
employees
is it private?
yeah,
Oh, is it private? Okay.
there's private companies under road freight.
Oh, okay, I see. So, but how big do you want to go?
As much as I can,
Look,
Professor.
I don't, yeah, I don't mean to scare you, but I'm just thinking like, you know, you want to
Yeah,
go, how much of it do you want? Yeah, but look, it's up to you. It's not really something that we should stress about.
yes.
You have not thought about how big that you want to go.
No, I haven't thought about that, Prof. I haven't thought about that. Or maybe
Oh,
I don't
okay.
understand Prof's question to say how far I wanna go, or yeah.
No, no, like if you take the freight, I mean, if you take the scope of the very same industry that we are picking up now, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to know how big is that in terms of size, and
Mm,
because that will also determine how much of it you're going to study in the
mm,
context of I mean, I'm just looking at the size of the population and everything else that goes into it.
mm. I
But it's
haven't
fine
looked.
if you haven't thought about it as yet, is not a
Mm,
problem, because all I was trying to get to is if you're sitting with a company that has got thousands and thousands of employees, for example,
mm,
it's a big organization, but because you are looking at the organizational rights, it
mm,
might just be that you're looking at not the entire employee situation, but just the rise that it's how what is their perception on the organizational rise of their experiences or and so on, you know. So it might
mm.
just be one company, really, not too many people.
Yeah, but I was thinking of also not looking at one company, but different companies.
Yeah,
Or it
okay.
wouldn't or it wouldn't make any sense to maybe check about 5 companies but still under the road rate,
Yeah.
or what. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
you
looking.
can do that. You can compare those companies as to how they
Yeah,
how did they interact with the organizational right in terms of what the similarities, are the differences, are they, you know, that might also work, because then one company might take long and another company
yeah,
might be quick, you know, for example.
yeah.
So basically, what are you looking at? You're looking at the way in which they deal with organizational rights, or the process that what are we looking at in terms of organizational rights?
Um, I would say everything. I would say everything. The process of organizational rights, and also how the challenges also that they face, and maybe just to check also the reasons why, maybe if they're not willing or if they're not receptive, or maybe let's say I go to a company that doesn't have a trade union, then maybe to
Yeah,
check with the company to say what is it that they don't want to have a trade union, or why is it that basically why they don't have trade unions, or why is it that they don't want trade unions? Because I
yeah,
think some companies also, they don't want, especially private sectors, they don't want trade unions because they're evading the compliance in terms of law, because they know when the trade union is there, they will make sure that they comply. And
yeah,
that is, they don't want compliance, they're running away from compliance. We see this thing happening, we see and hear from the news, there's a company which is employees, or the private sectors are not registering their employees with the bargaining council, with the labor, Department of Labor, or maybe offering them what they're supposed to get in terms of the LRA, the Basic Employment of Conditions Act, yeah, all those kind of things. And also, I think also that's the other reason why maybe we had what do you call this minimum wage act, because it was also trying to close the gap that was there, to say that there's still people that people like domestic workers. It's not a group of employees that will, maybe they can gather themselves to say, okay, fine, we have gathered here. We need a trade union, or we're gonna have a trade union to represent us, to look at those whole things, the gap actually between the employees and the employers when it comes to just organizational rights. Yeah.
That's interesting, but why is it, and that you can, decide whether you want to deal with it in this conversation, but why is it that organizations generally have issues with organizational rights? What is your hypothesis? What is your assumption? Why do they have issues with organizational rights?
I think also the mindset that they have when it comes to trade unions, to say trade unions are these harsh people, like they are just politicians, that they're just coming into their organizations or they're coming into their companies to bully them, or trade unions are bullies and everything. And also one reason, if I understand Prof's question, the most big reason that I think, or assume, that they don't want trade unions is they're evading from compliance. They don't want to comply, and they know when the trade union is there, they will have to comply. Yes, they will have to comply. Yeah. So I think
what do they have to comply with? What is that which they really worried about when it comes to complying? Like, comply with what kind of compliance are you looking at?
The compliance,
and I know I'm just asking these rhetoric questions. I just want.
Yeah, like firstly, the registration of employees, because as an employer, you need to register your employees with the relevant institution or relevant bargaining council, and also you need also to stick on to or comply into the collective bargaining. You need also to comply into the statutory requirements. For example, why does the minimum wage says? Why does the basic basic conditions of employment says in the lifetime salary that you need to pay them, the leave that they're entitled to, and all the benefits that they're entitled to. So compliance in terms of that, amongst other things.
But from what it is, from and what it is,
things like
I don't know. I might be wrong, Mikate. Yeah, Mikate. From what I'm hearing is that these are, and it's not really a bad thing to comply with conditions, for example, of employment. Is it for the employer? I mean, if you don't want to comply with the basic conditions, for example, of employment, you don't want to register employees, you don't want to pay tax, all those kind of UIFs and stuff. What are you reading out of that? Because for me, it sounds like these are the right things to do, but as an employer, I've got a problem with it. It's almost like the minimum wage scenario. What do you think is the crux of? So would they rather have employees? Because I know one of the recent conversation that I had, I don't know where it was coming from, correct me, because this is your area. They were saying they want to hire and fire as easily as possible. Wouldn't that be really a problem for a country where there is a huge unemployment rate, where you can just hire and fire?
Yeah, it is a
So
problem.
would you agree that there must be easier laws to hire and fire in terms of your research processes? Or would you rather say, because for me, what you're saying, compliance, sounds reasonable compliance. I mean, register them, pay them, okay. You know, those kind of conditions, pay SARS, make sure that you contribute toward their UIF. Because I'm sure you recall that during COVID, it was discovered that there's a lot of companies that were deducting
Yeah.
the UIF from employees, but they were actually not paying that UIF, and therefore a lot of people forfeited their UIF contributions. You remember that,
Yes,
that situation?
I do recall. Yeah, also ghost companies.
What did you make? What did you make of? Yeah, what did you make of that?
I don't think I understand Prof. question.
No, I'm saying that no, I'm saying, what did you make of those companies in the context of your research now? What did you make of the companies that were deducting money that was meant for UIF, and it turns out that they actually they were not contributing? I'm saying, what did you make of such companies, especially in the context of what you are studying, organizational rights? Was there any relevance, and if so, how, or not at all? You don't have any reflection on it?
I think the relevance, the relevance goes down to back to compliance, if I may put it like that, and also that employees they are for themselves. As long as they're benefiting, they don't care about the employees. As long as they're benefiting, and they taking from what the employees are entitled to, and by doing that, that's also infringement of the right to the employees, because then will then result in unlabor fair practices, if I'm not mistaken, because you're deducting from employees. At the end of the day, it's their salary, that you're taking a piece of their salary to say, I'm going to contribute to this institution or to this fund, but you're not contributing to that. And I think also that can also goes to committing fraud. I think that also goes to a length of you committing fraud, because that's defrauding the employees. You're taking their money, saying I'm going to put it here, and then you're not putting it there, but using it or taking it, I don't know.
Yeah, you see, I appreciate that, because it's really it was really a concern in those days. But that's exactly the point you are making, that it boils down to compliance. I think that's a very good idea. I mean, a very good answer to look into such.
Yes.
Good luck, Mikatek, with the study. It sounds very interesting, and I think it's going to. It's really one of those discussions that are very difficult, I'm sure, to have, because employers or private sector have got a different interest, and so are employees as well. And I think there's always going to be a conflict between the two.
Yeah, so I don't know, because maybe also like our government, or maybe the Department of Labor, or the institutions that are responsible of overseeing this, I don't know if they're having too much work, too much backlog, because you ask yourself, how does this all happen under their watch or something? And also from their side to really check on also how do they deal with these cases when it comes to their knowledge, and all those kind of things, and maybe have a suggestion, or having I don't know, a way to address this gap, because it seems like there's a gap between employees, employers, and our government or the relevant institutions that need to oversee the I don't know how to call it, whether the relationship or what between the employees and employers.
Yeah, no, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. We're looking forward to engaging you some more once your proposal is it's up and running. But I think so far it's an area that, like I said, for me, that conflict is going to be very interesting to see how you're going to navigate around it, because employers are using a different argument and employees are also using different arguments. And at the same time, the compliance and non-compliance scenario is also a completely different argument on its own. But good luck.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you want to ask maybe before we let you go have a we let you have a glass of water? You can ask.
No,
what?
no.
Oh, you covered. You're happy with your
For now, yes.
Okay, we're happy with what you're doing. And I'm sure, as I said, it's going to be a huge amount of work that you're going to have to put into it. And, along the way, there's going to be frustrations, but joy. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof.
On this platform now, and now that you've been listening to Nkateko and, us, taking us through her proposal, any idea, any input that any one of us have here on what you've just heard? I know, as I said, we are on a different status of our proposals, but I'm sure as she's talking and we're engaging, you're thinking like, oh my God, this is what perhaps she can consider, or this is what I need to work around, whatever that is currently, or that is at the moment worrying you. Or it has been worrying you for the last few days that, today when we meet, you wanted to hear about it. You can ask, or you can add, or you can input. Anyone? For those of you who might be hearing this for the first time, research is about consistency. It's about reliability. It's about reproducibility. You can imagine if we were to have let's just go to a natural or health sciences. You were to take a painkiller that is not consistent in the way that it has been tested and measured clinically. What would have been the situation with our lives? Now, reproducibility is very, very important. I mean, just imagine taking is it a Panado or a painkiller or a Disprin, and it has not been tested over time to produce same results. You would be taking it and there would be different reactions to it, and I'm sure it will be causing havoc globally. Now, I just heard now that I think it was in the States that the US president is now, I know that there was a health issue, somebody can remind me, was arguing that women who are pregnant must not take, I think it's paracetamol or something, because in his scientific view, it does cause autism or something like that. I mean, the weirdest arguments that you're getting from the president. Then I'm reminded that for those of you who have been long enough in South Africa, you'll know that there was a time in our lives where science was saying we should take garlic and beetroots and stuff like that for HIV, not the med. So there was a distortion around those lines. So now it's like, here we go again. That people must not take, I think it's paracetamol. Anybody who had that conversation, I probably had it that it was the end that the president in the US not only is busy with tariffs, but now he's arguing that when you are pregnant, you should not be taking paracetamol because it causes autism, given that there's a high rate of autism in the States. So he has found out that he's not known to be a scientist, more so a health scientist, but so there was that argument. Anybody who's not scared to get into this kind of a research field that can be very sensitive. Oh, by the way, I need to remind you that in research we talk about anything. So there are no no-go zones. I mean, otherwise then we would not have solutions to problems, because then we will have areas that we cannot research. So here it's a safe space. Did you hear the story about, well, not the story actually, the reported news about what the president of the US has said about pregnant women not being allowed now to take paracetamol? You have not heard?
No, I'm hearing it from you for the first time now, and the moment I heard it from you, I went straight to Google. So if you're calling my name now, I was actually trying to read
please
on
just
it
check,
on
just check if it is. Did you find it on Google?
Yes, I'm on the BBC website right now.
Wow, what is the story? Now tell us what is the
story. So it's the title of the article says why Trump's comments on vaccines and paracetamol risk child health. It's quite a lengthy one though, but then I'm seeing one highlighted part.
Okay, yeah, just go through one or two lines. Let's hear.
Okay, the first line says the public relies on measured, careful statements which are rooted in robust scientific research on deciding what medicines or vaccines they or their children should take. And I'm seeing one highlighted part which says that there is no strong evidence suggesting a risk. That's in bold and wait a minute. That's in bold and underlined.
Saying there's no strong evidence that is suggesting the relationship between autism and the use of paracetamol, I suppose, right?
Yes.
Essentially what that means is what Trump is saying is there is a connection, there's a relationship, a correlate, now that in researchers would use those kind of words, there's a strong relations between paracetamol and children who are born with autism. That's what he's arguing, right?
That's what he's arguing.
Yes. So now the article that you are checking, well, this is not an article. Which Google you didn't go to Google Scholar, you just went to Google, normal Google, then you landed up on the BBC, right?
Yes, Prof.
Now the reality is the danger, and that is what the statement may or may not be suggesting, but the initial argument will be, when you've got authority, when you're sitting with so much authority, that can be quite influential to his MAGA followers, isn't it?
That's very much true.
His make America great followers, isn't it?
That's true, Prof.
Now, this is what we are trying to say about research, that the argument now, they are not going to read, the MAGA are not going to read the fact that there's no strong correlation between the paracetamol and the autism. They're not going to read that, because it's the people tend to follow the leaders. Now you can imagine if you're sitting with a leader who doesn't see anything wrong in saying a statement like that, right? Then you can have a lot of people who stop using, the implication might be that people can actually stop using medicine simply because it is said to be causing damage. And we are not saying it does or it doesn't, but we're just saying, if you then look at what the scientific argument is that they cannot see a strong relationship between the two of those variables. So in other words, in terms of the causal relationship, they are arguing that the paracetamol usage in pregnancy does not necessarily result in autism. So how
That's
then do you
true.
convince your millions and millions of followers that what you are saying, Takalani, is much more correct than what your president has said? Between you and the president, you being a scientist and the president being their leader, who do you think they're going to believe more?
People are likely, okay. I think it will depend mostly on people's level of education, but then people that are not so advanced in terms of their education are likely just going to take what Trump says as it comes. But then there are those that would be like me that go all out to say, let me read. Because as I'm reading right now here, I'm finding this one line in this article saying, health officials in the UK have stressed that paracetamol remains the safest painkiller available to pregnant women. And it goes over to say the UK health secretary said, I trust doctors over President Trump, frankly. So, so
yeah,
I think it depends
but remember,
mainly on
one's
level of education.
But I don't think so. I don't think it's a level of education only issue, because otherwise then you are going to say, how is it then that the people who are educated, the Republicans, will go with a statement like that? Some of them are well educated, if not majority of them, by the way. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think education per se. I think for me, authority. Sometimes I think authority trumps over, well, excuse the pun, it trumps over science, because basically you believe in what you believe in. And even if we bring you all kinds of scientific proof to it, if you believe in what you believe in, you will still stick with it despite the level of education. I mean, I do hear you on the fact that you're going to read, but I know that there are Republicans who are well-read and well-educated, not on the matters of medicines, but in other fields. But they allow a statement like that to be, to go unchallenged.
No, but Prof, with Republicans, now we're talking politics. Without seemingly having a certain sentiment on politicians, but you raise your eyebrows at times when it comes to their decisions and they're standing on a certain issue.
So are you saying if I'm a Republican, which is a political party in the States, I would easily fall for it? Or if I'm a Republican who's, let's say, educated, I would not fall for it? Which one is it? Because it is a statement. The statement that is issuing is not to me, it does not come across as a political statement. It comes across as a public health concern. For example, if he says, if you say, yes, sorry, I interrupted you, Tagalona. I apologize. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Prof. In the sense, that's not a political statement, right? But then quite often the things that he says cannot. So what I mean is that within politics, remember, there's also issues of loyalty and solidarity. So they can't seem to be seen standing against him as much as some may stand out.
I see. Say, so they may not agree. They may not agree with him, but I see what you mean. So you mean he might be
out there as educated as they are. Sorry, Prof. Should I go on a bit?
No. Sorry, sorry. I think I'm losing a little bit of audibility as we speak, but I apologize. So I think I'm hearing you and I'm understanding you saying yes. In some instances, although we are a group, but as individuals, they may actually say, well, we're not going to listen to that. But then because we are within the establishment, we will pretend like we are hearing all that.
That's true, Prof. So there are likely others that be like, what Trump is saying honestly is not right, but they have to go out there and seemingly stand with him just for political purposes.
They have to toe the line.
Yes, But then
I see.
general
No.
people like
You're
you
also...
and I who are not within the party, then that's where I say level of education can also have a factor in it. Not to say it's a
I
decisive
see.
factor, but then it plays a role, just like I'm telling you that I went on to research. If I just give you a brief example of what I'm saying, I had an ill mother, and whenever they spoke of certain symptoms, I would go out there and research and try to find out what might be the symptom, and then suggest to the doctors, isn't it this or that? Then I had a friend who is not on my level of education, and one time she just had a minor headache, and then she went to hospital. They told her, no, we actually have to do an operation on your head.
Wow.
And she didn't inquire, have you done a scan? What happened? And they did that, and now her face is disfigured. She looks like she had a stroke. Whereas I'm like, why didn't you tell me when this happened? So that's where I'm coming from when it comes to people believing or not believing Trump.
But what you are saying is very, very important, though, Takalani. In the context outside Trump, we can leave Trump alone now. In the context of, we need to be curious and inquisitive at all times, which makes research what it is, right? Basically, you are saying we need the life that we live in requires us from time to time or at all times to be more inquisitive and wanting to know more. So basically, it's discovery and discovery and discovery, which I think is a very good attitude. Would you agree?
That's very much true, Prof.
So I think you are raising, for me, you are raising a very, very important point of life, that it is not wrong. I mean, right now I was giving a statement. I was saying this is what Trump said. Some of you will just take it as gospel. Now, all you are doing behind the scenes, like, let's just check if what he's saying is true, because, he might actually just be giving us a whole lot of, poison to consume. So you went in and you said to us, oh, actually what you are saying, it's also covered by the BBC. What did you do? You are now making all of us to say, hey, at least to the extent that we are speaking about the paracetamol and pregnant women, there's something like that is attributable to Trump. But it is important because you are verifying, you're confirming, and you are now going to engage that statement in the way that you feel it is appropriate. And I think that, to me, it's a skill that some of us are not developing, and I think it goes back to what is being said in other circles, which is the circles of the gullibility of some of the people in the continent, that we believe what we have been told. We are never inquisitive. We never question, because it's like, if you do that, then the questioning, you are being disrespectful. Now, how many of us will be or have been scammed by many processes? And unfortunately, in the case that you are mentioning, Takalani, is irreversible. I mean, if you've had such an operation, for example, that has now disconfigured you, the next operation might just be deadly. And it's not to say there's anything wrong with the person who believed in those that were advising. It is sometimes just to do with the fact that we just trust without really looking up things that are even up to us for, to look up to. So I think that, to me, is a very important lesson you've just shared with us right now. What do you have to say?
What I can say, Prof, maybe just to close this, is that I was just simply testing the reliability of your statement. I'm taking you back to the content you've been giving us from the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Sure. Sorry, Tagalan, sorry, I lost.
Hello, do you hear me, Prof?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry, we lost you for a moment there.
Saying, when Oh, I'm sorry. I think I muted it a bit because the baby's distracting on the
Oh,
side. No, I
no,
was
it's fine.
just
Remember, we
saying
said it's a
when I went
family
to
show.
Google, it's true, Prof. No, I was just saying, with me going to Google, I was just testing the reliability of your statement, just as you always preach it now.
Thank you. Please do it in all, maybe not in all, but in most instances, particularly given today that there's just so many, truthful things that we learn. I mean, AI, ChatGPT, and all those things that we GPT. Because otherwise, if you just believe what you have been told, you may find yourself having said things that are not reliable and not truthful. So I encourage that. But you've just said something now also important that you needed to you always check, before you make decisions. And I think I like that because one of the UNISA's principle of education is that you need to produce critical thinkers, scholars who are not just going to agree with things as they are. So I like that, and I hope you keep it that way so that you don't let your guards down. Sometimes it's something that we don't realize that we are learning on it because it's not methodology. There's no method. There's no reliability on it. So I appreciate that very much, Takalani. Well done.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, so if we move out of the reliability and we talk about an instrumentation, here what we have, is when you talk about instrumentation, we mean the instrument that should be used to collect data. Now, that instrument must be administered consistently, so it must be reliable. So you need to say, I'm going to interview 5, 3, 2, or whatever the number of people that you are going to interview. And you would like to make sure, you have to make sure that when you interview them, almost pretty much you're either structured, you can be unstructured, but you still to be, remember, structured or unstructured doesn't mean disorganized or chaotic. You may be structured. In other words, you've got a set of questions that you're going to ask, and those are the questions that you're going to ask. Or you may be unstructured, which means you might be flexible when the way that you're going to do it. So there's an element of flexibility, where you go with the flow. Or you may be semi-structured. Semi-structured means you have a little bit of a structure, but you also have more flexibility as well. So that's what you are going to do. Now, you can imagine if some of you have worked with on a questionnaire, whatever questionnaire you look at, you will find that it is, more structured. It asks you what is your age, your gender, your location, whatever it is. So a questionnaire will be more of a structured instrument that will be standardized and it gets sent to us. So it will ask all of the 200 of us, 2,000, 20,000, similar kind of questions. On the other hand, if you look at the qualitative, it can also just not, it's more like one-on-one people talking to you, or it's a focus group where it's a group of people and so on. But what is important here is there has to be an instrumentation, an instrument that you are going to use to collect data. Now, when we talk about validity, if you are going to be interviewing people, even if they talk about all kinds of things that they can talk about under the F, you still have to get a point which talks to what you are there to establish. Earlier on, when I was listening to Mikatego, she was talking about organizational rights. Now, if she's going to talk to 5 companies, and these companies are talking about how well they're doing, because they don't have unions and so on, or how bad they are doing because now they recognize trade unions and so on. They may talk about all those, and they may give you a view, but at the end of the day, it has to be that you are able to get from them organizational rights situation. So in other words, much as they can talk about their balance sheet and everything else that they do, one of the questions should at least address the organizational rights and the extent to which it is applicable to them. So validity is you need to hit the target at least. The target must be hit in the way that you're asking people. They must be able to answer, well, even if they answer it in the long, winded conversation, in the in-depth information that they give you, something in there must be, at least you must be able to say, this is what they said about organizational rights, and this is how the process has unfolded. This is what the reasons are for them to recognize or not recognize the rights. This is the compliance issues that they spoke about. Maybe these are the challenges that. So at least you've got that in your collection of data. So you'll be able to say, the process was a problem, or the reasons were issues that were advanced in this way, or compliance was the issue, or challenges were. So you're able to come up with that. So that's what validity is supposed to do. You need to say, I have no doubt in my mind that this is the actual reason why there is this situation. Now, when we talk about the example we're speaking about now of paracetamol and autism in children. So pregnant women consume paracetamol. The results are autism, for example. When we look at that, we say, we now look at the internal validity, because it is about whether or not we can convince ourselves, so, whether this is conclusive enough that, yes, we now know that there is no other causes of autism than paracetamol. If we get to that extent, then we say, that's internal validity. But if I were to ask a question, do you want to tell me now, as students, that for our understanding, all autism that we are aware of are as a result of those women who are pregnant consuming or using paracetamol during their pregnancy? Is there anyone who wants to say it is a fact, or what would you say? When we talk about paracetamol, we do know that there is autism in the world. I don't know what is the situation in my country in terms of the rate of autism. It is there. I mean, it's a global phenomenon. But I want to check, would you then ascribe autism in, let's say, South Africa, to the consumption of paracetamol? Let's see, what do you have to say? Let's prove if this theory is correct. We are trying to do internal validity testing here, that we've got no doubt that those autist children can actually blame the consumption of or the use of paracetamol by their pregnant mothers. What do you have to say? Leleti, what is your view? It's not clinical, but I just want to hear what your view is.
Well, Prof, if I were to link that with the statement by Donald Trump, medically, there's no proof at this stage. It's just an assumption that he's making.
True, but what then do you think for yourself? Do you think there is any form of correlation?
Without medical proof, I can't say there is. Because yes, what causes autism in the first place?
Yeah.
Can we really link it to pregnant women consuming paracetamol? I would say no.
I would say no too, but yes, although we don't have, as you say, we don't have any clinical information to conclude, but given the fact that paracetamol it's an old drug that has been used, there might be issues around, the abuse of drugs, some of this legal or over-the-counter prescription. Yes, it can influence the way children are. But if you just take paracetamol as it is, we say we are not convinced, right? You are not convinced at the moment, Lilith.
Yes, I'm not convinced.
We're not crossing the borderline to say, yeah, but if you are using it overly, you are overdosing on it. We are not there. We're just saying the use of it for what it is intended to be used for, there should be no problem.
Correct, Prof.
Okay. So you are dispelling, you're dispelling our hypothesis that the use of paracetamol causes autism.
Yes.
You don't agree?
I
okay,
don't
let
agree.
me hear. Let me hear what Pule has to say. Pule, what? I know you said you're at work. Are you still at work? You are still able. You are not able to talk. You've been hearing us.
Yes. So I switch on all. Hence, you see me my photo. Normally, when I'm logged on with my own laptop, you won't see my picture here. So this is my work Teams. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The transition didn't disrupt you. What do you say about my theory, my hypothesis about paracetamol and autism in children?
I agree with my colleague there when she says you cannot. There's no link between what is being suggested and what we don't have enough information to come to the conclusion.
Now, you see what you are saying is very, very important in the context of what we are talking about. We are talking about collection of data. So in other words, in this instance, we would say you need to collect data relating to, let's say, children with autism, first of all, right? Clinically, isn't it?
Yes.
So you need to say, these are the children that are all, they all have autism. Now, based on that, say, for example, if for the number, we don't know what the number is. We can use 20. Let's say we've got 20. So it means you are actually going to talk to the parents, and you might also do some clinical tests on them. And you then take paracetamol over time, and you're then able to say, well, look, there is or there is no. I mean, if you ask one parent and you say to that parent, how often, when were you pregnant, and how often did you use paracetamol in that period? And the person says, I can't really remember, but maybe once or twice. And then you interview another parent, he says, I've never touched the thing. And you ask another person, he says, I'm using it a lot more. So you see what you are doing? You're collecting data, isn't it?
Correct.
Now you're sitting with the information where and one parent says, I've never used it. Another parent said, I've used it a little bit once or twice in my pregnancy. The other one said, I've overly used it, and so on. Now, when you sit with that kind of data, you will then be able to say, and I'm saying clinically now, you'll then be able to say, well, this information is pointing me to whether there is a relationship or there's no relationship. Now, you take the worst case scenario that, for example, maybe the one who's overly using it, and you also have to define what is overuse, isn't it? Because you can't just say, yeah, well, you used it more than everybody else, therefore you were overusing it, isn't it? Because remember,
yes,
it's meant for something else. It could mean for, I think it's meant to do what? Pain or something like that. So if somebody has got more pain and is using it for the pain, it means they have got more pain during pregnancy than the other parent, and so on and so forth, isn't it?
Correct.
So even the definition will have to include what would we define as use, overdose, overuse, and whatever else. So when you do analysis, we then say you bring all that information together, and without really being subjective to the data, you then look at it and say, what does it point out? Does it point out that the first time all the parents used, there was a change in the children that were, in the unborn babies, or the change in the unborn babies happened, in the second, third, fourth, or many uses. That's the expensive process. So it's not just a statement that you will make, because you've got authority, or is an opinion of peers. So you see why clinical trials then are are not only expensive, but they also take time because you have to go through that process over a long time. And in some instances, they then use animals to see if there's changes in the way they behave whilst they have got unborn. So I'm trying to say statements that are clinical can be dangerous in a sense that, and your research, in the sense that people believe that you have used the correct data and you have spent enough time and money and energy in analyzing the information to get to that conclusion. So as a researcher, that's basically what you should understand, that before you get to an analysis, make sure that you've collected information, the right information, using the right instrument, and making sure that everything else that you're going to, you have control over it. And when you then start analyzing it, you detach yourself emotionally from the information that you've collected. Because you've got the view, but then the data that you're going to collect might tell you something else. And therefore, you find that as a researcher, you have had your hypothesis, which is absolutely correct to have, but then it's not been confirmed. The kind of information that is at your disposal is saying there's no relationship between autism and paracetamol. Now, that's your conclusion based on your analysis, informed by the data that you've collected. You have used the right instrument to do so. That makes sense.
It absolutely does.
So the reason why I'm trying to say that we will rely on you as researchers is because you need to follow the correct processes. Your proposal needs to be firm. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be such that when you talk about reliability and validity, if I follow your journey, I should, at least to the extent possible, come to the similar conclusion. So in other words, if I then apply the same methodology, I would then say, yes, it is actually true, because 80% of my findings are telling me that that is the case, not because there's a perception that goes around like that. So it is very, very important, ladies and gentlemen, that when you do your research, you spend time on the instrument that you're going to use to collect data, but also knowing the kind of data that you're going to collect linked to your research environment. Now, when you've got that information at your disposal, whether it's documentary or is individuals that you interviewed or questionnaires that have been completed, when you sit down, you need to at least not only organize it, but make sense of it, read it through, understand it, and honestly make sense of it to an extent that you are able to say, this really makes sense. I now want to see what do people say about the phenomenon that I'm investigating. Of course, I'm saying it is very, very possible that they may differ with you from your original idea. It's okay, because you are a researcher and you're independent from the data that you are analyzing. Now, the reason why I want us to spend a little bit of time just talking about these kind of scenarios is for you to understand that an analysis is very, very important in the bigger scheme of work that we're doing. Because you can collect data, but if it's not analyzed, it's meaningless. If that data is not interpreted, it's meaningless. If you cannot give us meaning of it, it's meaningless. We've got no use for it. Now let's talk about the internal validity, but also the relevance of analyzing data that has been collected for a purpose. Now, for some of you who are South Africans, you might be familiar with the fashionable, maybe I shouldn't say that, but the what do you call the Madlanga Commission. The last time Godfrey and I were involved in this discussion, there was a Zondo Commission, and then there was a Nugent Commission. We throw this in the discussion. Now, currently there is a Madlanga Commission collecting data, because there is an internal, but there's something that they want to establish going forward. And remember, they are collecting data. Well, let's say they are gathering evidence using the terminology that they are using on the other side. But from a research point of view, let's say they are collecting data, qualitative data, because there are interviews, in-depth discussion, evidence, recordings, and so on. So let's just go and say it's qualitative data that they are collecting from Lieutenant General Mkonazi. Now, let me just check with you, maybe Theodora. What do you think is the point or the phenomenon that the commission has been assigned to investigate or to establish? What is the phenomenon in your view? And I'm saying I'm taking it as that it is quantitative when I look at it. I'm sorry, qualitative, because it looks like they're just going to look at some convenient participants. They're not going to ask you and I. So you and I don't have, well, unless we are mentioned, otherwise we don't have a probability of participating there. So what do you think?
Yeah.
Why does it sound like it was it something that you are not going to think about for the rest of your day today?
Yeah, I really don't want to think about Masanga Commission. But
don't talk about the commission. Don't talk about the politics of the commission. Talk about the research of the commission, the research element of the commission.
Yeah, they want to establish if there's evidence, there's a reliable evidence which can be proven that indeed there's been some misconduct or what can I say? But bottom line, they're trying to establish reliable facts and evidence in terms of what has been said out there to say that has happened. So basically, that's what they want to establish. Because if they don't interview, they don't gather informations in terms of interview, in terms of the records, they won't be able to reach a conclusion which will be able to satisfy the country or whoever that indeed there is something that is happening which is not right. I don't want to put it in that way of politics, but they are gathering information.
No, leave politics for a moment. Let's leave the politics, because we don't want people to catch feelings here. The issue here, is that you are right. They are trying to establish whether there is can we say the corrupt relationship between the organized criminals who have looted money from some tenders, including Tembisa and so on, and the former, the suspended Minister of Police. That's what they want to check, the relationship, isn't it? Whether there is a relationship, and that relationship is so. I think that's what you are getting at.
Yes, that if there is a relationship, there is a relation, there is a interplay between whatever that is happening, the corruption, and whoever that is being mentioned.
Okay, I'll give you the names. Will that help?
Yes. Okay,
there is an allegation that is leveled against Senzo Mtunu, which is now, we're talking hypothetical now, that he's got a relationship, a corrupt relationship, or a relationship that is compromised in terms of the policing strategy or the security of the country with organized criminals in the form of Bo Ket Matala and Bo Brown Mkhotsi. Now the commission is established to check if indeed that relationship exists and what is the nature of that relationship. The allegation is that it's a corrupt relationship. So,
Yes.
so it is up to the commission to establish whether the relationship exists. It looks at face value that there is, in terms of this phenomenon, that there is a relationship, right?
Yes.
But whether this relationship is corrupt or not, I think that's where they are now trying to get into it. Would you agree?
Yes, I will agree. Yeah, they want to determine if indeed the relationship that they have, these people, is it corrupt or not? Maybe you can find that maybe their relationship is innocent.
Yes, it doesn't
There's
mean,
no
it doesn't
corruption.
mean, yeah, it would not mean that the criminals are not there and the organized criminals are not trying to do something. It could simply say, well, maybe because they can also be organized criminals that are trying to reach out to you and I in some other ways, right? But you may not have a relation, or you might have a relationship with them unknowingly. Or you can have a relationship with them knowingly, isn't it?
Yes.
So you see where we are going with this. We are going to a point where we say to have a relationship is one discovery in terms of your analysis. To have the nature of that relationship can also be another discovery in terms of your analysis. Maybe it's there, you've ticked the box that there is a relationship. There is a way in which these people talk and interact. But to the extent to which you now say the relationship is so deep and corrupt could be another layer. So they're actually peeling these onions, or they're meant to peel these onions layer by layer until such time that they're able to say, we have now established beyond reasonable doubt. Now that's internal validity. That this relationship is a corrupt relationship, and this is how much it means to the extent that it is established by this commission, and therefore those people who are involved have been knowingly doing this, or they could also come and say they were unknowing. Now that is one of the reasons why in the relationship you then get organizations involved, because the relationship is so much so that it's layered that it could be that you are not relating with me at the personal level, you are relating with me organizationally. You see what it means now? Now that could mean that it is actually through the organization that this relationship is problematic. This is what research will do. By the way, research allows you to speak the way you want, Theodora. So don't be scared. What do you have to say in the parting shot on this?
No,
we are allowed
nothing.
in relation in research. In research, we research anything. I mean, there are no limits.
No, yeah, it's a story, so something. So let's not get into it. But I understand what you are saying, that yes, we have to then try to understand if there is a relationship, and then whether that relationship is positive or negative, and how deep is that relationship. Yeah, I do understand. Yeah. Yes.
Now, as public, now let's just say now, I mean, I want to go to the conclusion of it. We've spoken to everyone. Lieutenant General has been cross-questioned. There has been good work done, and now the commission wants to wrap up, and because they will be fatigued at that time, wrap up and want to hand over the report to the executive and for Parliament then to interact. Now, let's just for a moment, because remember now, we are invested in this research work. Now, let's just say for a moment, the commission's finding is that, yes, we did find some relationship. Yes, people are talking to each other. Yes, the crime rate is very high, but we could not find any wrongdoing on the part of, I mean, this is hypothetical, on the part of Senzo. What does that do to those of us who have invested in the guilty verdict?
We'll be disappointed. And we will not
then what
trust
happens
them.
to those? What happened to us who have now invested in the innocent verdict and then its guilty verdict? Equally, they will be disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that, but then what will inform the finding? I mean, the conclusion. We take it for granted that it will be driven by data and nothing else but the right information, isn't it?
Yes.
So as a commissioner yourself, we expect you to look at the facts and the information that is before you and saying, I'm not going to use anything else. I'm not even going to worry about the politics, the optics, the media influences, the noise around me. I look at this and I say, I can see the relationship is corrupt, or I do not see any corrupt relationship. And you can then imagine what the reaction is going to be. Either way, you see what research can do as well. Research can be such that you're telling us that there is so much of unhealthy food that we eat in the fast food outlets because it's too much salt, too much sugar, and you can get a backlash out of that. Because then you are actually just saying, these are the facts. Now, imagine if those facts are now to be challenged. For example, you talk about the Big Mac and you're saying, well, there's no health benefits. There's no health benefits in the kind of food that they serve. Do you really want to believe that they're not going to say something about your conclusion?
They will definitely say. They will definitely try to.
They might even question the kind of data, the instrument that you've used, the population that you have sampled from, the methodology that you have followed, isn't it? Everything is going to matter, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's what reliability will mean. Then they will say, first of all, tell us where you got your data from. Now you say, well, look, I am in Soweto. I really went to the local, MACD, and with due respect to MACD in Soweto. Now they would say, well, maybe you don't know this. So they are going to get into, because the point they're trying to prove to you is that there's no validity and reliability in your research, therefore it's not good enough. So the reason why when you collect data, you need to be methodical and you need to be thorough is so that when you make conclusions, and conclusions, some of which can be adverse, you need to remember that those whom you are making conclusions on may then follow you and say, look, we want to go and see for ourselves because we think that you did not get the facts right. So when they don't do that, others might actually be doing it to defend themselves, because all it could be is we have taken maybe a particular beggar, we have subjected it to the inspectors of health, who are much more knowledgeable and informed than your kind of guys that you sent to, and it has come out with this positive, that positive, and that impact and this impact. We looked at the salt content, and we find that compared to the kind of food that you're recommending, our salt content is much lower than your salt content, which is by far very high. Do you see what they're doing? They're actually trying to nullify your research work. And they can also find gaps in the way that you have conducted your... That is not on its own wrong. That is not on its own a wrong discussion. It's just to say now you need to defend your own methodology, and you need to defend your own study and the own way within which you conducted your research, because it could as well be that the intentions of this work that you are doing is a marketing situation for them, that you're actually trying to say their beggars are not healthy, and they may look at it and say this is actually a damage to their product, not necessarily a research situation that you will be dealing with. I hope that makes sense to you, Theodora.
Yes, you are making sense. You are really making sense.
Oh, thank you very much. So basically what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, is that research is like an investigation. Be intentional about how far and how much you're going to collect, and make sure that your method and your processes are right. I mean, if we go back to how we started, where Mikateko was talking about organizational rights. I have a company, a small company, and I don't recognize organizational rights. It's a company that I'm running with my Chinese friend, and China is not a socialist country. We don't do organizational rights. We even encourage children. We even have child labor in it. And then she comes and she talks to me as a CEO that is working for that company. I mean, first of all, they are child labor. Second of all, we don't recognize organizational rights. Thirdly, employees there are not getting minimum wage. and she comes and she wants to talk about organizational rights. Do you look at it and say, in that context, it may be that the population that she's going to talk to might be an interesting population in that they may not be honest in the way that they're going to interact with her. What do you think, Mikateko, about that scenario? You come into organizational rights. My company and my partner are those kind of companies that here we do things as we want. We hire and fire. We don't there's no organizational rights, there's no trade unions, and so on. What comes to mind when you are confronted with that situation and you have to talk to the CEO? I was just giving an example that drawing from what I was raising earlier with Theodora, that if you are going to go to, let's say we go to a company that is owned by me with my Chinese friend, I'm the CEO, and China is known for the rights issues that, children, child labor. They are not a socialist state. They work long hours, work very hard, and we don't pay minimum wage. And you want to talk to us about organizational rights. I'm saying, what do you think is potentially going to come out of that? And this is not an exact answer. This is also not a true reflection of companies that we are partnering with China on. It's just an example. What can you expect from that?
I think
on organizational rights, do you think they would? Yes.
Yes, you can continue, Prof. You were saying, I think they can.
No, I think in the questions that you're going to ask them, how much of it do you think will address your concerns?
I think they will be evasive, or they will be resistant to talk to me or to us. But also it also will depend on the approach or the manner of approach that you will have to them. That are you first willing to sit down on a round table to say these are the challenges that the employees have, or complain. So maybe before you can try to talk into organizational rights, try to see if they can fix that, because the main thing or the main issue of trade union to want to acquire the organizational right is to make sure that the employees' rights are protected and affected. So if they're gonna be willing to effect or comply or give the employees what they're entitled to, then it's fine. But if they don't, then you'll have to go to CCMA to acquire organizational rights. But from the hypothetical case that you mentioned, they will be first resistant because they know them, they're not in the right way of law.
Yeah, they may actually think, because now I want to go back to the point of the labor, what do you call them, the inspectors, right?
Yes.
They may actually think that you are one of those inspectors that is coming to check, because compliance can also be to do with the fact that you're breaking the law, isn't it? The labor law.
Yes, true.
So the point I'm trying to ask you is, how much of that risky population do you think you will get cooperation? If you were to ask me, do you respect the rights of employees in regard to they register? And I know that I'm not doing it. My question is for you. Do you think you're going to get genuine answers cooperation from them? And if they are resisting, because you are now saying there could be resistance, what then do you do because that's your population that you have identified that you're going to focus on? What could you possibly do in your case then?
From them, Prof, I don't think I'm gonna get any genuine answers. They won't give me genuine answers. The employers won't, and also even the employees, because some are also intimidated. So they will also not going to talk to me, because there are employers who will dismiss the employees because they trying to talk to the outsiders, whereas trying to talk to the union officials to bring the trade union or something. So they wouldn't. So to get the genuine answer, no.
So what are you going to do about that? Are you ready? What can you do when they are not open enough to give you answers that you're looking for? Any plan on your side?
Apologies, Prof. This is thunderstorm from my side. So I think I can.
All right.
So I think what I can do, but also, I mean, from the way that they will conduct themselves, obviously it will show, or it will be obvious to say, okay, fine, these people are not genuine with me, meaning that there is something.
Yeah.
So maybe I will also try to check, or maybe get the information from like other institutions, like there's a certain bargaining council, if they're under a certain bargaining council, if they are governed with a certain bargaining council, I will then check the information from that bargaining council, and check the information also from the labor department, in terms of if maybe they are registered and everything. I think I can maybe try to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair, maybe that's where you need to go, get the databases from labor department and from CCMAs and all that, because that kind of information will give you a sense of the extent of compliance or non-compliance in the country, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure if you, in your literature, you need to say, what is it that is a situation for the sectors, and which are the sectors that are most likely to disrespect the rights, and you sort of select from them. And you can also use the databases of, say, for example, CCMA. You can use the databases of the Department of Labor and all these other authorities that are looking into, and courts, for example, where there are disputes and so on. Now, in that regard, you are able to say, what is the level of compliance? But remember, there are thousands and companies that may actually not be in compliance at all. And those ones, you may or you may not know them, because they may not be on those databases. So I would really say that's where you need to start. Then you can rather interview the structures or the authorities that are managing compliance, because they will be able to give you points of your analysis, that why are these companies, one moment they're complying and then over time they no longer comply, or what is the extent of non-compliance by companies and why. So you see, you're now going to people who are tasked to make sure that there's compliance. Because if you go to someone who doesn't comply and you say, first of all, they may deny that they do not comply, and then you reach the dead, you've just reached the dead wall by them saying, no, we are actually in compliance. The mistake that is made was by the previous inspector or government. So they can actually send you on a wild goose chase. And you make conclusions only to find that your conclusions are informed by, I mean, if I'm a crook and you ask me, are you a crook? Chances are, I don't know whether I'm going to say, yes, I am.
Very
you see what I mean? So it's better if you go to those that are managing groups, perhaps to get a sense of what is the level non-compliance, and which sector are not complying. And then you look at what your sector, the sector that you're interested in, and you ask the question, how about these ones? Then you are able to figure out, how much of it is going to be relevant. But it's going to be very difficult to get those that are not complying to participate. It's always very difficult to get the guilty to come in and say, yeah, well, we are the culprits.
But I think also it will be good to also approach them, so that when you make the analysis and conclusion, they wouldn't say that you never came to us, you never spoke to us, or you never asked to speak to us. So the information that you're saying or you're getting or whatever about us is not true. So I think it's good, it's best, and it's what I've been thinking, that I will not only question or maybe try to approach the companies and the employees, but also to check at the institutions that govern them, the CCMA, bargaining council, and the labor court, and.
No, it's perfect. I mean, if they are willing to tell you why they are not complying, I mean, that's even perfect. But you may also find that the level of compliance differ. So maybe you may want to look at what is the threshold for yourself. For instance, maybe it's you might have elements. I don't know what are the different levels of compliance, but you may find that maybe you are looking at those that are not complying with a particular aspect of the conditions of employment or whatever organizational rights. Now, maybe they comply up to a point, or maybe they dropped off somewhere. So if you identify them as to what are you looking for, you should be then able to say, okay, I'll look for these ones that were complying. Maybe they stopped complying at some point, or these ones are complying, but they are missing 2 or 3 compliance areas, because compliance on its own, it's also, can be measured in terms of various levels of it. So again, because we don't know what is the extent to which you are going to look at it, you could say, no, I just want to see those that have unions, or those who have registered unions, or those that have deregistered unions. I don't know. Like I'm saying, it's a good idea, but it also depends on what you are intending to achieve. Because at the end of the day, you, as a researcher, you are the one who must identify what you want out of your research project. I just want us to quickly repeat what we discussed the last time on data, because this is very, very important in research. I mean, to get literature review, it's a lot of work to conduct the review, to put your proposal together just as a point within which you are structuring your work. It's very important to formulate a hypothesis, which is really an assumption that you are going to build your observation and your analysis on. Is very, very important. But all that work is still something that you can rely on, to the extent that you can rely on resources and so on and so forth. But what I want us to look at here is data collection. It's you as a researcher. That's where you literally come in and you do your hard work. And it doesn't mean, I'm not suggesting that when you do literature review, you are not doing anything. I'm just saying, now you sit and you go and you talk to a person or the participants, or you've designed a questionnaire. All that work you're doing enough. Here is where you, as a researcher, you're sitting and you're thinking, this is the work that I must do myself. So I must go and interview the commissioner at CCMA. I must make sure that I talk to the CEO of that company. I must distribute these 200 questionnaires that I've designed questions around, and the themes and the variables myself. This is hard work. This is a lot of work. Now, when you are being a master or you're doing your PhD, this is what really makes your work a lot more important I suppose. Now, a lot of researchers, especially when you begin, you tend not to spend time on organizing your work. And that can also be a fundamental error that could make you come to conclusions that may not necessarily be, when you look at the measures of reliability, validity, may compromise that. It doesn't mean there will be no errors in research. Of course, you know, there's a number of errors. Each process, we can look at an error, methodological errors, theoretical errors, and population sampling. You know, but we look at the margins. You know, there mustn't be like, you know, it's just too big. That is very difficult to work with anything else. It's almost, you know, that kind of a measure for yourself, that what is the margin of error here that I'm willing to work with. Now, organizing data set is very, very important, ladies and gentlemen. Now, earlier on, I was saying to Mikatego, get data from the CCMA, for example. Now, CCMA can give you a data set on, there is 30,000 companies in South Africa, for example, and they then say, of these 30,000 companies, only 10% do not comply with, say, for example, registration. Now, if that is what they are saying, it means you will then be working with the 70% of the companies that are complying with everything else, the registration. But remember, it's only registration. Now, when you use that data, now you turn around and you say, yeah, but I'm now using the same data for other things. It might be that, no. Actually, this data is only to assist you in registration. So if you want registration processes, reasons, challenges, and everything else, that data might change. So in other words, when you look at the database data, you need to say, what is in front of me? What do I have here? I mean, if I just say UNISA students and I use you as an example, today there might just be 10 of us, but the next time there might be 20,000 students, and I've made my statement on the basis of 10. That will be fundamentally flawed. So that's why it's important to say, what am I looking for? Now, when you organize data set, there's an element that we say you need to sort it out, because when people have given you the information, they give it to you in the way that they understand it, in the way that it makes sense to them. Now you need to sort it out. It's very important to sort the information, the data set for purposes of analysis. So you don't jump first into analysis, try to sort it out. What does it mean to you? The recording, you know, there's a lot of work. I mean, qualitative research, you know, tend to take a lot more data because people are talking, there are words that are being used, some of which they may have deeper meaning than you realize at face value. You know, if you look at language, it's sometimes they use, you know, an expression in language that is much deeper than you realize. All languages have that. You know, they say something when they actually mean something else. So it's also important to understand and to listen to those recordings. You know, the formulas, if you are using a spreadsheet, you know, build that information. You don't have to do it yourself, by the way. You are allowed to talk to family members to help you with a spreadsheet, because you're now sitting with data and maybe they're good in calculating for you these complex mathematical and statistical formulas. One of the good thing about research is you need to bring in different skills into your discussion, because it's more important, I mean, into your work, because they will enrich and enhance your knowledge as well. If you're going to sit and think, oh no, I'll do the pie chart, I'll do the test, I'll do the coding, I myself will do the t-test, you know, the histograms. It might as well be that maybe you don't have the aptitude for all this. There's nothing wrong in that. All you need to do is look for the skills that are within and outside yourself. I mean, some of these softwares, there's a lot of people who know how to work around them, as long as you give them the right and the correct data. Graphing, for example, you may find that you are challenged perhaps in how to use graphs. Now there are, and I want you to really just see how to play with this. There is a statistical package for the social science. They call it the SPSS. It's a software that is used for data analysis that you can use, and especially quantitative data analysis. Check if the university has licenses with them, because some of them I know that, especially the SPSS, I know that it's based on a license. But normally, if you go to the university, you talk to the people at the university, they will be able to make that available for you. It's a very helpful statistical package that you can use if you are working on your quantitative data. The statistical analysis system, also you can try it. The transcription, when you've got a huge amount of data, like now with AI and all this other technology that is at our disposal, it transcribes notes for you. So you don't have to sit and now rework the whole thing. You can just, download it, put the videotape or audio tape interviews in there, and then it does transcription for you. Basically, it gives you the notes, say this is what I'm getting, and so on and so on. It's very important to just play around with that. So there's different system there. There are softwares such as Dragon, naturally speaking, and they can also do transcription for you. So basically what I'm saying is that there are softwares that you can use to analyze data. Just familiarize yourself with what the university has for you. Then when you do coding, these systems will be able to say to you, I'm picking up this, I'm picking up that. I see that 200 people say paracetamol. Maybe you need to look at paracetamol. I see a lot of people say, autism. So these are kind of tools that are there to assist you to develop your analysis. Because remember, you're still doing the analysis, you're not doing the interpretation yet. You're still saying what is coming out here, and you're using both the quantitative and the qualitative data, putting it through the system. Now, you really don't have to sit and count manually. The systems can do some of this for you. So this is what you need to be familiar with. Now, if it's quantitative, there are different analysis tools that you can use. Descriptive statistics, there are inferential statistics, there's regression analysis, there's an analysis of variance, there's a chi-square test, there's a factor analysis. So there's quite a lot. You don't have to memorize all these. You just have to say, okay, using this kind of information, because you may not want to go through thousands or 300 questionnaire where each question that you've asked, if you've got 35 questions, each of those questions needs to be analyzed individually, and then you put it together into the report. So that's what we are trying to do to you, ladies and gentlemen, that spend time with the collection of data so that when you come to analysis of data, you are able to say, what data is this? Is qualitative? Yes. And then if it's qualitative, how am I going to deal with it? If it's quantitative, how am I going to deal with it? If it's a mixed method, how am I going to combine the two? But this is what an analysis will have to do. So you can use softwares that are at our disposal to do the analysis. But you need to understand what each of these softwares are meant to give you, because again, if you are just going to put technology for the sake of it, you may not understand what all that means. This then, for now, concludes our discussion on analysis. We will keep on coming back to it, maybe now more into what each of these means. But the idea is really not just to tell you, that there's descriptive statistics, inferential, and all that. The idea is to say, look at your own work. If you are qualitative, this may not be something that we use. If you are quantitative, perhaps that might be relevant. If you are mixed method, this might be something that you want to look at. But you also need a somebody who's doing statistics, just to help you through your data so that you can navigate it more, because otherwise you can be overwhelmed. So for now, I think we've been able to tease the importance of analysis of data, both qualitative and quantitative, and we'll see how we measure this going forward. So next time we'll deal with the measurements, those nominal, ordinal, and so on. So Godfrey, let me to you at this point.